God damn it just gets more and more funny, doesn't it? Here we are at the Freemasons Grand Lodge in Holborn, central London, and they have a Masonic Emporium selling to the world. Yada 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 at the Freemasons Hall. Here we are at the Freemasons Grand Lodge in London, inaugurated in 1717. So this building behind me is older than America, or the foundations of it are older than America. I just had to come back here because I watched the documentary from the Discovery Channel called The Secrets of the Freemasons, which had so much promise. It had about 30 minutes of explaining all the different theories and also facts of the Freemasons and the big mistakes they've made and their secret society and their vows of secrecy and how they have a finger in every single pie in governments and financially. I'm so disappointed with this documentary because after about an hour, it just very categorically started to say, oh, every single conspiracy theory about the Freemasons is totally false. It didn't mention sacred geometry, it didn't mention 3D world sorcery, it didn't mention fractal theories at all. It was just the biggest omission report, the biggest whitewash I've ever seen of the Freemasons. I've always been against secret societies. I think they're pathetic, nobody needs them. They're a waste of time, and also they arouse suspicion because they're secret. So I just want to categorically state one more time, completely against the Freemasons. Banking is normal, corporate world is normal, banking very normal, associate health with banking, associate good government schemes like free bicycles with banking, 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 money, money, money. Here we are in Covent Garden, Neal's Yard, Neal Street, just outside Urban Outfitters, which I think is very, is a great metaphor for really where the young people are nowadays. And I say young as in much younger than me. I'm 30, I'm talking about 18 to 29. I watched footage from the criminal justice bill riots in 1994 and saw a whole bunch of people my age, a lot younger, a few older ones, literally rattling the gates of Downing Street. One extra little man pushing would have broken the gates and people would have raided 10 Downing Street. I didn't see any guns in that video, but now the place is a fortress. But you can see how the whole system has turned people into very, very shallow and base consumers. There isn't really any desire to change the world when you have 200 channels on television, MTV, you've got all the world's best clothing, where people might, want to improve themselves within the matrix rather than actually try and change the matrix themselves. It just seemed extremely lazy, very lazy and very disappointing. Yeah. Here we are just off Covent Garden. There's 7 dials with the sun clocks or solar something just up there. There's this nice pillar, and it's unveiled by Queen Beatrix of the Netherlands in 1989, just before Silky was born. Goodness. Anyway, I don't know what 7 dials signifies, but there are 7 streets. 7 streets leading off from this roundabout. But if anyone knows any esoteric or Freemason or sacred geometry significance of the number 7 with the solar dials, please leave it in the comments section, because I'd be interested to know. Here we are outside Downing Street, the seat of supposed power for the puppet David Cameron, for the British government. I was just thinking of the wonderful irony of Britain being a monarchy with a queen and a prince and a duke, a proper monarchy, sending young working class men off to die in the desert for democracy. Even on the parliamentary side, Britain doesn't really qualify as a democracy per se. It's a first past the post regional election system. There is no proportional representation. And on top of that, a monarchy, with the monarchy, the royal family always appearing in the tabloids and the Hello magazine, OK magazine. And also you see in the mainstream media, the Sky News, the BBC, the princes, Prince Charles, the Queen likes to go visit the troops out in Afghanistan and Iraq. Very recently we passed a terrible number, 1 million dead Iraqi civilians, which goes to show we've had a much more minor conflict, and our troops with the American troops have been responsible for almost 20% of the Jewish Holocaust, but this time little brown poor people in the Middle East who just so happen to be in Babylon on top of a lot of oil. So after 1 year of doing this, I can see that the great British public is apathetic. They will accept a lot more difficulty, a lot more hard times before they actually rise up and do anything. But I think that's what human beings are predisposed to be, as it says in the American Constitution, the Declaration of Independence. Sorry, there are two documents, but one of the two. It says that men and women will bend over backwards under tyranny so that they don't have to go to war and have a revolution per se. But right now the system is very comfortable for a lot of people, and they're kept very comfortable by the very fact that they are drowned in choices, in the fake choices of consumerism. And when you get to the supermarket and you've got 20 different types of ketchup on offer, that's not really choice, that's just the corporate state expressing itself sideways with no choice. Back in 1994, the gates behind me were rattled by hundreds of protesters, but they've put an extra gate in front of it. So, as you can see, the activist dream never dies out. It just evolves into something slightly different. So fight the good fight. The fight carries on. There's all the people in the dark uniforms with big guns, but they have no power. None at all. Here we are at the Cabinet offices just off Whitehall in Westminster. Very big, impressive buildings, and just a lot of great glamour around here. You can just imagine the cost, both human and financial, of these incredible buildings. And I know people that work in these buildings, and I don't hate them. But it's just a constant reminder for anyone who's actually awake to the actual system, just how every great thing or anything we consider great is built at such an incredible human cost, and we need to weigh up whether the cost is worth it, whether all the dead and all the brutalized and all the people beaten down in a system which requires a giant peasantry in order for the pyramid to continue. We need to ask whether any of this is actually worth it. And my answer is unfortunately not. I studied logic and philosophy at Edinburgh University, and even regardless of that, but I was professionally trained to find out, whether arguments are sound, whether reason, whether someone's reason is logical, whether the argument is valid. And delving into ethics, you can't justify anything good by something bad. You can't. The ends don't justify the means. You can't kill people to save people. You can't go to war for peace. You can't fight for freedom if you're a government which is in power, which is already tyrannical. The only people that can actually fight for freedom are the oppressed. And they're the ones that deserve to fight for freedom. And I fully support every uprising around the world, in Africa, in South America, in Asia, the Chechens, the Iraqis, the Afghans against the Russians and the NATO forces. All the rebellions in the Caribbean and South America. These aren't stupid people. These aren't people who are insane who just decided to pick up a gun one day. They went through all the options, and when your options are exhausted, you have to fight the dark side. And it's Charlie Chaplin himself who said in his big speech at the end of The Great Dictator, "Let us fight for a better world. Let us fight for freedom. Fight for freedom, not for slavery." There's a lot of people still fighting for slavery. The very chains that bind them, they will do anything to uphold, because this is the system they're comfortable with. Okay, well, see you on the front line. here we are in the court number 2 at the Supreme Court in Britain, and you can see straight away there's a giant eye in the centre of the courtroom, as you do. Well, Your Honour, we hereby judge that the Iraq War was 100% illegal. The British state is guilty of 1 million Iraqi deaths in Iraq and Afghanistan. The legality has not been challenged and has been dictated as fully illegal. Welcome to court number 3. How do you plead? Guilty? Yeah, guilty, good. In fact, we, the ruling council of humanity, dictate that the British government is guilty of treason against the human spirit of freedom and sovereignty. It is guilty of pretending to impose democracy on the Middle East whilst holding a monarchy. It is also guilty of supreme lies against natural justice by imposing a carefully controlled technocratic world upon the people, training them and debasing them in order to be much less than what they once were, as free and wild and sovereign and independent human beings running free in the plains of this world. We are gathered here today for the show trial of humanity itself. Will humanity choose a world of hierarchies, of control, of power, of money, of looking the other way? Or will humanity now in the 21st century begin to accept that no one has authority over you? No one has the ability to invade your country and is expected to bend over backwards. So for all the resistance movements around the world, fight on. You are with the human spirit. Just be careful not to become that which you are fighting.